Hi friends, welcome back. You made your way here to the blank canvas and you made it back to the studio to have some fun this morning. So I think today I was thinking maybe like a forest with like an idea of Mother Nature and symbolism, right? Maybe holding an owl or something sitting on a stump. So it's just a real quick thought that I was having. So let's go ahead and blast out a painting. I think I'm gonna grab what we got ourselves, like a 1.5 inch, and I think right now we're gonna put this into this Prussian blue. You know, I sure like Prussian blue. I like cobalts and Prussian blues more than I would like an ultramarine blue. Now, right now, what I'm doing, I'm spreading this surface. I always like to get the entire surface covered. And if I can get the entire surface covered, then it gives me that tonal quality that we've talked about. And that just means that everything's going to start sharing the same harmony, where everything can kind of be blended together. And by blending everything together, everything now lives in the same light, because it's going to be outside and there's only one sun. And everything's going to share that same light. Okay. I think I want to make this a little bit darker because we're going to be maybe deeper in the forest. But maybe it'll be coming a little bit towards nighttime. Okay, now we're really not going to need to focus too much on this sky. And I'm going to use the exact same brush that I was just using to make the sky. And I'm going to dip this into a burnt sienna. And so now this has blue and brown, okay? And I just want to put heavy trees, okay? These heavy trees are now really just going to start putting us literally in the thicket. We're going to be immersed immediately, and we don't have to worry about all the fiddle bits of the sky. But let's start bringing in a whole bunch of trees. And I just want more of these old classic oak trees right now. And then we can start making some characteristics about the trees. Okay, now the next bit about a tree, let's go ahead and do like a big stump of an old massive tree that was cut down or had just lived out its time. And all I'm doing is just pushing that brush, that same brush that I used to make that blue in the background, to make these guys go up and down. And we're starting to create just this environment, literally, of environment. So, part of the environment is filled with some rainbow belts. Hey, so I'm going to dip that green, brown, blue brush, okay, right into this sap green. Sap green. And so I have not cleaned my brush other than to just get some paint thinner turpentine on it. And that's just making the first layer of this all go on nice and thin. We want it to be thin, watered down, thinned down, because it just makes it so much easier to apply, because we're going to have to remove some of this paint that we're actually putting on here. Whenever I picked up and split and I moved to Pittsburgh when I was 17 and went to art school, it was graphic design school. And this was all actually before Photoshop. The first year I got into school, there was Photoshop that was introduced to us. So this is 90s, 95, 97, something like this. And it was a major in graphic design with illustration. Illustrating was where I really like to spend my time. And that's just a fancy word to draw. And I forget the name of the instructor. Shame on me. Because he influenced, and I remember what it was that he was trying to teach. He was an illustrator for baseball and Pittsburgh Pirates. And so he showed this technique of where you lay down your pigment, but he would have had an illustration underneath this with pencil, and he would have sprayed that, and by spraying it, it secures the graphite from not moving. And now you see the pencil line and it's all blue or it's all red. And now the real neat little trick about oil paint is that you can remove this paint. And we've talked about this before. So what I'm doing is I've grabbed a pretty stiff brush and I'm dipping this straight into my turpentine. And we're going to put a figure here. This figure, I want to make just an idea of a woman sitting in a forest. And in the older paintings that I remember growing up seeing, they all told some story. And if it wasn't somebody on a horseback slashing its way through, or if it wasn't some strange pile of fruits and skulls and men holding scales with fancy rugs up on the walls. Well, you look at those paintings, you might not read the title of the painting, you not understand why in the world these people are in there with a scale. So, as a younger fella, I like to read, and I like to read about these painters. And Salvador Dali, everybody knew him. He was the far out fellow with the mustache that paints the clocks that melt, that nobody will ever forget that image. Well, Salvador Dali said that painters are storytellers. We have to continue a folklore, or we have to make up a new folklore. So the world is yours, and whatever that world is that you want to make, well, now's the opportunity to tell that story. So what does make somebody want to sit down with essentially an eraser brush? Because that's all I'm doing right now. I'm just erasing everything, but I'm not. I'm pushing it all in here, and I'm getting a sketch. I'm getting a concept of the composition and how I am able to now see the way the cloud in the sky is formed. My brain is also thinking about how we're built, how human beings are built, while I'm doing this the whole time. And so we all have a set of shoulders that go across. There's going to be a ball at the end of that shoulder because that is, yes, the shoulder itself. Now, there's a bit of a taper in the back of the arm. There's a bulge in the front of the arm. Okay. That taper now goes out to that elbow, which peeks out. And now we have a little scallop that becomes the dip of the forearm. The inside of the forearm bows out. The outside of the forearm will be a little bit more straight. Okay. So, now, I kind of want to make her hold an object. And she's going to have her hand over that object. Okay, so we're to that point, and let's not worry about anything else. Now, we need to go over here to this other arm. This other arm also shows the exact same thing. A little pit in the elbow. A bit of a round of the muscle in the forearm that tapers into the wrist. And we're going to have an elbow right there. Straight on the back of the arm. Because we have that bone. Okay, now this is going to be the pinky. The pinky, so we just need to see the fat of the hand. And the thumb is in the back. It goes back, right? So this is just the block. We're blocking this in. I want to do a woman. So collarbone, sternum. Sternum comes down to pecs. Pecs come down to rib cage. Rib cage rounds out. Abdominal muscles hold everybody up. Rib cages roll back, roll back, roll back. We now have a hip that becomes the waist. On a woman, we have the extra that becomes the extra that makes the thigh. So what we have here is rib cage, the guts where all of the intestines. Down here is the actual pocket of the waist. This becomes the back of the butt. that becomes the top of the thigh. We're working with a rectangle. The rectangle is round, so it bows out. There's a knee bone. The knee is a C. This goes down. We want to bow this out to become the calf. Bows out to become the calf, straight. Dip it back into the brush. I want it thinner. The calf leads down to Achilles, becomes the heel. The outside of the foot is the pinky toe. Pinky toe becomes the big toe. So we actually have a taper on that shape. Okay, we have a leg shaped out. We have a leg shaped out. So here's the outside of the thigh. And now on this, we have the hip. We have a thigh. This is the interior of the thigh. And the calf right here, because she's sitting on the top of the calf, but we still have the knee exposed, becomes the shin. And the top of the foot is going to be found where? The foot folds out, big toes here, little toes here. So big toe is going to be here. And that shape goes back. Yeah, okay, groovy. She sits on her foot, and there's that. Okay, lead up to the neck. The neck goes up. I'm going to switch over to a smaller brush. This smaller brush is just going to be like a 1/4 inch guy. Boom, boom, pretty beat up. I like them like that. Okay, so the neck, we have the neck, and now we have a jawline that goes up, a jawline that goes up. So that becomes the chin right here. This comes down, tapers. So that jawline, let's follow that jawline. Boom, that's a jaw, right? Okay, becomes the back of the skull. Back of the skull. Now we have the front of the face. Cheekbone here, nose comes out, and forehead up. This needs to come down pretty sharp because we're losing that. We're losing the back of that. It's no longer this round. Eye pitch, cheekbone, and we have this face. Now, I see this face. I hope you do too. There's a chin that leads up. So this person is looking up. So right now what I'm doing is I'm trying to make composition. One of the more pleasing compositions is considered the triangle. It's just the way the human eye works, guys, girls, gang. Okay, now, let's see. They are going to be holding an object. Let's keep going with this because this pigment allows me to now make this universal. I wanted to make an owl, I think I say. So let's do breast. This becomes the wing. Now, I don't believe owls have big tail feathers. I don't see big long tail feathers. But they have very round heads. Owls can't roll their eyeballs. That's why they turn their head. Okay. Okay, so we now need to flesh this out. With telling stories, I think I want to make this a little bit more of mythical. Why not? So let's just go ahead and keep doing this because Mother Nature would probably be in a little bit more of something like a gown if we want to play with old concepts. She has a neckline right there on her dress. Shoulders. Okay. Dress is starting to flesh out. We're getting a little bit more of that. For some reason, though, I think she needs to have Yeah. More of that. So we're going to actually be covering up some of that arm work. To make a little bit more of a drape. Okay, gang. So, halfway through, I feel where we want to be. Okay, so let's start bringing in more of a darkness on these trees. And all I'm doing is using that same burnt umber, just straight up brown. And I've chosen to do this all on the right side. Once you stick to a side, you stick to a side, because it just makes things a little bit more cohesive. Just dipped it into the paint thinner a little bit more. Okay, there's that. Now I'm going to go back into the blue. I'm just dipping that brush right straight into pigment. We want this to be darker. So I don't like to use black as a color in oil painting to make things look more real. Unless if it's like a piece of machinery. But what I'm doing is I'm just simply making that blue give a little bit more volume to this figure that we just built. Now, see, now I've done a bit of an outline, and life really doesn't have outlines, but what it has is a dog barking in the background because he heard a cat jump. But what life has is contrast and colors behind each other, more than we have outlines. We might have an aura, and that might create a different contrast. But for the most part, you're just seeing the difference of the background and the object in front of it. I'm just taking this blue and I'm just making a little bit more of... Exactly. I'm just making a little bit more. I also want to keep the blues pretty low and keep that darker in the ground foliage more than I want to put these real darks up into that sky. If I do put this darker up into the sky, it's going to be high up as possible, because I really want to avoid this fade getting interrupted. I feel like that just makes a little bit more of a natural ambience. And you know, the one fun thing about this, that you friends out there that have joined me, the one challenge that I'm actually really enjoying about all of this, because for me this is even a challenge, because typically these oil paintings that I sit and I do, over the years that I've sat and done them, are mostly 2-part, 3-part, where I'll sit down 2 or 3 times. And now that I've been capable over the years of becoming more and more familiar with just the way paint goes and the image that I have in my head, I'm now able to challenge myself as a picture maker just as much as I hope everybody out here is able to get a challenge. You don't have to rush this like the way I am. You can sit and spend days and days and days but right now we're going to be able to paint something here and get it going. Okay, so right now I want to put a little bit of blood inside of this person. So I'm going to grab, some more rainbow belts. And I'm going to mix that raw sienna and burnt sienna and titanium white. And I'm going to start making some taupe. So I chose to make all that darker on that side. So we're also going to do this darker on this side. And start putting in this person here. So underneath the chin, underneath that neckline, there's that shoulder. I guess we need to ignore, but maybe it's more sheer material that she's wearing. And there's that pinky, and there's that ring finger. And this is just real super basic handwork. But there's that thumb back there and the palm of the hand. We don't really need to see too much of that hand. We'll start shaping it up a little bit more. Hands are a challenge. I think, though, if we start looking at the shape of the hand, it's just a square that's actually just a little bit more of a trapezoid. And that square is this. And then there's a bunch of diamonds that sit on top of it. And not just a bunch, but specifically 4 diamonds. And those are the knuckles. And those become rectangles. And those rectangles become diamonds again that are a little bit more squared off because they're the knuckles. And then they taper out to a scallop. These are just some of the things that I wind up seeing whenever I'm trying to teach myself how to paint and trying to teach myself how to draw and just trying to teach myself what is it that I'm seeing. I dip that right back down into the titanium white. We want more exposure, I think, on that neck because that's going to give the observation that that light's coming down a little bit more, and we have a cheekbone that comes up a little bit more. The nose is going to round up. We're actually going to see kind of the nostrils. Okay. That becomes that. That becomes that. That becomes that. Fade that out, fade that out, fade that out, fade that out. Okay, I want to go back into that taupey color because I need that. Okay, and right now we need to give her some hair. So I'm just going to go back into this blue. And bring down this hair. Bring down this hair. Shaping up that a little bit more. And now, since we've been using all of these colors in this painting, we can go ahead and put blue in the face. Put blue down into that neck. Okay. We're going to put a little bit of blue underneath that. Use my finger there to rub that out a little bit. There, boom. The brush isn't always the instrument that's used. Okay, now I want to go into a smaller little brush here. And now with this smaller little brush, I'm going to go ahead and grab a little bit more of that bright terracotta color. I want to go ahead and make the letter M. And that letter M would become her lip. More importantly, though, with making a mouth, the lip goes all the way to the other pupil. The face lines up to the pupil. The ear lines up to the nose. I know that's weird, but that's the way it goes. Boom, boom. The ear is usually red, by the way. We're only wanting to really do the top of an idea of a lip. The pinky typically is also more red. Okay. There's that. All right, now with that same small brush, I'm going to bring over a pitch of a finger, pitch of a finger, pitch of a finger. The thumb's going to go behind this object that she's holding. Do that, do that. Okay, now I'm going to grab a little bit more white. Do the top of the eyelid, which is just a little bit more of a bow. And that lines up with that, that lines up with that. Bringing in a little bit more of the nose shape, the top of the forehead here, a little bit more of a cheekbone gets more light. Bring that to that, bring that to that, bring that to that. That goes to that. She's going to need a little bit more hair coming down over this. So go into that blue. This time I'm doing it with a little bit more brown. The ear gets covered up by her hair, and it goes down. Let's see. We do have a little bit of a shadow there. A little bit of a shadow there. Shadows, shadow, shadow. Okay. I'm going to go right into that blue, go right into that brown. I'm going to just put a little bit of a line here for her eye, a little bit of a boop there for her eye. Okay. Round that out one more time. She's going to have eyebrows. Oh, I need a little bit more paint. And she's just going to have an eyebrow. And she's going to have an eyebrow. Let's go ahead and do a little bit of a for the nose. Scallop in that face a little bit more. Scallop in that face a little bit more. The brown from the tree now gets to become a little bit more of that contrast in background, so we get to clean up her face, right? And we're gonna do that now. Okay, so this guy, a barn owl. A barn owl is a sharp line, and I feel like barn owls actually have the smallest eyes of them all. He's gonna need dashes down for his little feathers there. Do that, do that, do that, do that. So I want to make her eyelids a little bit less bright. A little bit less bright. Bring that tote back down in here. Bring that tote back down in here. Pinch that there. Okay, now let's see. A little bit of breast feather. Breast feather. Now, this is Mother Nature, so something she is definitely a part of is balance. And so the whole time, what is above is below. Bring in a little bit more contrast. And so my goal here is about 30 to 40 minutes. I don't want to make anybody feel rushed, but I think 30 to 40 minutes is enough of our time to be able to get an idea of how we can, if we choose to spend our time, sit around and develop ideas of maybe how painting was done. What folklore did we create? What items are we going to leave behind? And I feel that if we can spend our time maybe making things that either get turned into a dartboard because that's the way they want to spend their entertainment with it, or if they want to go ahead and hang it up and say, hey, you know what? I just spent 45 minutes away from the world. And we made this little thing happen that didn't happen like the way it ever had happened before. Pardon. A little bit of shadow over there. Now, I think with that, we also need to put maybe a femur of some sort down in here. And that's just that. I want to put a little bit of brown in it because it's an older one. And all I'm doing is just making two little rounds that become a unbalanced straight line. The bones are pretty neat architecture if you actually wind up getting to spend some time studying them. They bend and wow, holy cow. A little bit dark under her eye there, I just did more than I wanted, but hey, you know, I don't hate this. I think it's fun. I think that this is kind of a happy little weird place that we just got to visit. Now, we could go down in here and make raccoons and squirrels and everything in between. And I mean, right now, all you have to do is what a squirrel is a question mark, I believe, right? Because his tails go up in the air, and then it'd be a blob down. They got big old hips on them. Throw a little belly out there. Boom. Do a little head, a dot on top of that head. Look at that, a little arm comes out. Now, this is the impression. And see, all we have to do, you spend, 17 seconds. We just pop it in there. It just fills it in a little bit more. You can go ahead and add a rock. Right. Okay, gang. Well, I think we could spend forever in this forest. But I think, hey, we've got ourselves a quick little idea that now we have learned that we can just use brown, blue, green, and white. Tap it here, tap it there. Let's go ahead and put up an SMY. Boom. I hope y'all had fun. I love y'all. Puff tough. Stay safe. Let's see you again out there.